Welcome to TK Talk, the show where we dive into the vibrant stories that make our school community special. Join us as we interview teachers, staff, and fellow students to explore their experiences, insights, and discuss the moments that shape our lives right here at TK. So grab your headphones and let's get talking.
All right. Welcome back to TK Talk with your host, Joe Reed, and my co-host, Bryson Rubel. Who am I here with today?
Hey, Mr. Bruno, one of your two assistant principals here at the high school.
All right. How you feeling today?
Pretty good, thank
Yeah?
you. Yeah,
Can I ask you some questions?
absolutely. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, I'm doing
I'm
amazing.
I'm
Awesome.
doing good too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to get into my first question here.
Sounds good.
What is the transition from the elementary school to the high school? What is that like?
That's awesome, Joe. Great question. The best way I could explain it is it's bigger and faster. I taught high school
Yeah.
for like the first 11, 12 years of my career, and then left to become kind of a middle school, then elementary school administrator. And so elementary schools tend to be smaller,
Yeah.
about half the size of high schools.
Mhm.
And then, elementary schools tend to have kids in the same classroom pretty much for, 3/4 of their day. You might have, breaking your day for lunch, breaking your day for PE, but for the most part, 75, 80% of the day they're in the same room. Well, high school, about twice the size. And
Yeah.
then you move every 55, 58 minutes, or if it's seminar day,
Mhm.
50 minutes.
Yeah.
And so everything is just a lot faster paced. So in terms of the transition, it's adjusting to more students to build relationships with, and
Mhm.
just faster transitions during the day.
All right.
So,
What's one thing that you miss about the elementary school?
that's a great question too. Um, you know, the uh, I will say, and it's a benefit too. The high school students are a little more real in the mornings when I'm greeting them,
Mhm.
and the elementary students are still a little more, I would say, bright-eyed and excited.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to sound like a negative on the high school students,
Mhm.
but the high school students are a little more real. Like, yeah, no, I'm tired this morning, Mr. Bruno.
Yeah.
Whereas most elementary students, again, you get the start time's about an hour different too, but
Mhm.
they're a little more excited, for the day to begin than most high schoolers are just, yeah, I was up late doing homework. I'm tired,
Yeah.
But they're real, and I appreciate them being real. So,
Mhm. What's something that you like about the high school, like more than the middle, or not the middle school, the elementary school?
I don't want to nerd out on everybody, but the academics,
Yeah.
a big piece. Again, having been a high school teacher, that academic level at the high school level is a little higher. So there's that piece, and then there's the piece that when you try to have conversations with elementary students about where they're going to be, in 5, 6, 7 years, it's a little
Mhm.
different than when you have conversations with high school students, especially upperclassmen, about what their plan coming up is. And so
Yeah.
that's something that I really enjoy as well.
Yeah. What got you into teaching?
Oh, wow. That's a great story. It's a long story. I'm trying to think of the shortest, quickest, most appropriate way I could tell it. I didn't want to go into teaching when I was in college. I was getting an undergrad degree, a bachelor's in history, because I was going to go to law school.
Mhm.
And so it would have been the summer between my junior and senior year. I was supposed to meet up with some of my friends back in Boston, and I was staying with an aunt and uncle who lived close to the college I was going to. And so, even though my uncle's only like 8 years older than me, so his kids were kind of young at the time. And so, one of them, who was in kindergarten, said, "Oh, before you go out with your friends, can you show me how to do this?" And he had like a worksheet for addition, subtraction,
Mhm.
basic kindergarten math. And so I wound up kind of sitting with them, and kind of showing them some tricks, teaching them essentially how to add and subtract with what we now call like regrouping, which would have been, well, back in the day we called it carrying and borrowing, right? When you have to,
Yeah.
add a number, numbers add up higher than 10, right? So
Mhm.
I'm working through that with him, and time keeps slipping by, and essentially I wind up blowing off my friends because of all the time I spent working with him. And so my aunt pulled me aside later that night and just kind of said, "Hey, you blew out a night on the town with your friends to teach Connor how to add and subtract, double digit numbers,
Yeah.
She said, you might want to consider going into teaching." And I said, I don't know about that. So my senior year, I changed one class, and they misplaced me. They put me teaching math and science 5th grade, and I loved it. And I said, you know what? It's teaching. Maybe, maybe not 5th and 6th grade, maybe high school, but it's this. And I switched. Instead of going to Boston University BU for law, I went for their School of Education and became a teacher.
Okay. This is a question that I kind of have, and a lot of people also have.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear the accent.
Yeah.
I mean, every day. Where exactly are you from?
Okay.
That's like hometown.
Yeah. Thank you. Right. Because, just like out here, people will say, oh, I'm from Grand Rapids. And it's like, are you really from Grand Rapids? Or are you from like Ada? Or are you from are you from Middleville? I'm from an area called Everett, which is like it touches Boston. So it's a little north, kind of east of Boston.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, grew up about 2-3 miles from downtown Boston. So like right there, it's an urban area itself. I'm sorry, being that it's so close to the city. So yeah.
What's a big difference between Michigan and Boston?
Oh, okay.
Or like Middleville and Boston.
Fantastic questions, right? If you just stop Michigan to Boston and Massachusetts, the thing that I used to tell people when I first got out here and I was teaching at Byron Center High School is you got to imagine, Michigan has maybe 3 million more people than Massachusetts, right? So, Michigan's got 15 million, Mass has like 12 or 9 and 12, whatever. It's like 3 million different, right? Except Massachusetts is about the size of 3 Michigan counties. So you've got 9 million people packed into like Ottawa, Kent, and Ionia County, essentially. Like if you overlaid the maps, right?
Pretty crowded.
Yeah. So it's, one big difference is that crowding and what that crowding produces, right? You've got a whole lot of people trying to chase the same nickel back in Massachusetts or back in Boston. Whereas here, it's definitely a little more spread out. And so to connect to your question too about, Boston, difference between Boston and TK or Boston and Middleville, it's very similar. Like, Middleville's such a beautiful area. And, I think our district is like 120 square miles or 126 square miles.
Yeah.
So it's huge, even though its population isn't kind of large, so that would be, I think, the biggest difference. Great questions.
Yeah. What's one thing that you miss about Boston? Or just like, do you miss living there?
Anytime and I haven't been back in a while, but anytime I go back, something drives me nuts, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome because it helps me know that like I'm where I belong, right? But one thing I miss, and I've been out here, I think 18 years, but there's a piece of growing up there and having been there for as long as I was, you know everything like the back of your hand, and so there's no time that I'm out there that I don't know where I'm going or I don't know a good place to go to eat or something to go do. Whereas here, sometimes I'll still have to it's embarrassing, but I'll still have to call up Google Maps and be like, oh, geez, what's the best way to get so-and-so? I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that place. Or, my kids now, as they're older, I've got a junior, a freshman, and a 7th grader. They have different, sporting events or places I've got to get them. And it's like, oh, I don't know where that is, and that doesn't happen, back where I'm from. So that's the biggest piece I probably miss, just the overall familiarity with the area.
All right. I mean, that's all the questions I got, man. So
Awesome.
thanks for coming down.
Awesome questions, by the way.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed hearing the conversation. Join us next time as we continue to explore the experiences that make TK unique. Until then, keep the conversation going, and we'll catch you next time on TK Talk.